My name is Chantel Rosales. I was 30 years old when my own father pressed a loaded gun against my 4-year-old daughter's head and calmly asked me to decide which mattered more, her life or my signature. The first thing I noticed wasn't the gun, it was his suit. Tailored Italian wool, perfectly pressed, impossibly expensive. It looked completely out of place inside the modest living room that my boyfriend and I had spent years building together. Every piece of furniture had a story. The secondhand sofa we'd found online after saving for months. The scratched coffee table we refinished ourselves. The colorful crayon drawings taped to the refrigerator by our daughter. Then I saw Hazel. She stood perfectly still beside the couch, clutching her favorite blue dolphin so tightly her tiny fingers had turned white. Behind her, my younger sister Chloe crouched with both hands gripping Hazel's shoulders. "It's okay, sweetheart," she whispered sweetly. "Mommy's just making this harder than it has to be." My older brother Carter shoved a thick stack of legal documents into my chest. "Sign." My mother, Diane, leaned comfortably against my kitchen counter beside a bakery box she'd brought to make this look like an ordinary family visit. She was smiling. Not an anxious smile, not an embarrassed smile. She was genuinely enjoying herself. Then my father, Robert Rosales, pressed the barrel harder against Hazel's temple. "You have one choice," he said quietly. "Sign the loan or lose your daughter." I stared directly at him. "No." Carter slammed both hands into my shoulders. I stumbled backward over the coffee table and crashed onto the hardwood floor. The gun exploded for one endless heartbeat. I couldn't breathe. Hazel collapsed onto the carpet. The world disappeared. Then I heard crying. Loud, terrified, alive. The bullet had missed. It struck the ceiling instead, showering the room with plaster dust. But before I tell you how my father became the kind of man willing to point a loaded weapon at his own granddaughter, you need to understand what it meant to be born a Rosales. To the outside world, we were the perfect family. My father had spent 4 decades building one of the largest commercial real estate companies in the state. Newspapers called him a visionary entrepreneur. Politicians asked him to appear beside them during ribbon-cutting ceremonies. Children's hospitals proudly displayed plaques bearing his name because of his generous donations. People admired him. They respected him. They had absolutely no idea who he became after the front gates closed. Inside our house, love had conditions. Success earned affection. Failure earned humiliation. My older brother Carter was born to inherit everything. Luxury cars appeared on every birthday. His Ivy League education was fully paid before he even graduated high school. The morning after college graduation, my father handed him the title of vice president, despite the fact that Carter barely understood the business. Nobody questioned it. Chloe was treated like royalty for a different reason. My mother spent years preparing her to marry wealthy, attend charity galas, and strengthen the family's social status. Every designer dress, every exclusive vacation, every expensive lesson was considered an investment. Then there was me, the family disappointment. I never cared about boardrooms or investment portfolios. When I turned 18, I told my parents I wanted to become a pediatric nurse. The silence at dinner lasted almost 30 seconds. Finally, my father laughed. "I assumed you were joking." "I'm not." He slowly placed his fork on the table. "You have every opportunity in front of you." "I know." "So why would you throw your future away?" "Because I don't want to spend my life making rich people richer." His eyes narrowed. "I want to help children." His disappointment was immediate. His respect disappeared overnight. Nothing I accomplished afterward ever mattered. Graduating nursing school didn't matter. Passing my licensing exams didn't matter. Working at one of the best children's hospitals in the region didn't matter. Because none of it increased the Rosales fortune. The Thanksgiving after I became a registered nurse proved I would never belong in that family again. I brought Marcus with me. Back then, he was my boyfriend. He taught fourth grade at a neighborhood public school and loved his students more than his paycheck. My mother looked him up and down before we'd even finished sitting. "A teacher?" she asked. Marcus smiled politely. "Yes." She turned toward me. "So both of you chose careers that guarantee you'll never be successful." Marcus reached beneath the table and gently squeezed my hand. I could feel him silently asking if I wanted to leave. I almost said yes. Instead, I stayed. "We're happy," I answered. My father carved the turkey without looking at me. "Carter just closed a $12 million acquisition." Nobody spoke. He continued slicing. "That's real work." Then he finally looked directly at me. "You change bandages. I save children's lives. You assist people who save lives." I met his eyes. "No, I save them." His jaw tightened. "You embarrass this family every time someone asks what my middle daughter does." Marcus calmly spoke for the first time. "I'm proud of Chantal." The room instantly became colder. My father stared at Marcus as though he had committed an unforgivable offense. "If you had any ambition," Robert said, "you'd encourage her to pursue something worthy of her potential." Marcus never raised his voice. "I think helping children is one of the most meaningful careers anyone could choose." That dinner ended exactly the way every family gathering eventually ended, with us leaving early. Neither Marcus nor I ever accepted another invitation. Instead, we built our own life. A small house, reliable used cars, weekend grocery budgets, movie nights on the couch, long walks after dinner, real laughter. It wasn't luxurious, but it was peaceful. When Hazel was born 4 years later, I made one final mistake. I believed becoming grandparents might change them. Still exhausted after labor, I called my mother from my hospital bed. "Mom, it's a girl. Her name is Hazel." She sighed. "Tell Marcus congratulations. They're doing my hair in 5 minutes. I'll call another time." She hung up. Neither parent visited the hospital. 3 weeks later, a greeting card arrived. Inside was a crisp $20 bill. The message simply read, "Buy the baby something nice." That same month, Chloe gave birth to her second child. My father established trust funds for both grandchildren before they even left the hospital. My mother practically moved into Chloe's house, posting endless photographs online about how blessed she was to be a grandmother. Hazel never appeared in a single picture. One evening, I found myself staring at that $20 bill while Hazel slept peacefully in her crib. Marcus quietly sat beside me. "You keep hoping they'll become different people." "I know. They won't." A tear rolled down my cheek. "I don't want Hazel wondering why her grandparents don't love her." Marcus wrapped an arm around my shoulders. "Then we'll surround her with people who do." From that day forward, our little family became everything. Hazel loved dolphins. She believed they could understand human conversation. Marcus always pretended to agree. Every Saturday we visited the beach collecting shells. Every birthday felt magical. Every bedtime ended with stories. For almost 4 years, life was wonderfully ordinary. I honestly believed my parents' greatest punishment would always be ignoring me. I couldn't have been more wrong. 6 months before my father pulled that trigger, he arrived at my front door carrying a leather briefcase. That single visit changed every remaining chapter of our lives forever. My father didn't waste time pretending his visit had been friendly. He walked into my living room without asking permission, sat down as though he still owned the house, and accepted the coffee Marcus nervously offered before opening his leather briefcase. He slid a stack of legal documents across the coffee table. "We're expanding downtown," he said in the same calm voice he used during shareholder meetings. The bank requires immediate family members to guarantee the financing. Sign where I've marked. I flipped through the pages. My stomach tightened. $2.3 million. I looked back at him. You expect me to guarantee this? It's only a formality. No, Dad. A formality doesn't bankrupt someone if things go wrong. His smile disappeared. You don't understand business. I understand debt. You won't be responsible. I absolutely will. His fingers tapped impatiently against the paperwork. You owe this family. I laughed once. It surprised even me. I owe this family? I raised you. You controlled me. I paid for everything. I paid for my nursing degree. I gave you your name. And I've spent my entire adult life trying to survive it. For the first time since arriving, genuine anger flashed across his face. You've always been ungrateful. No. I've just finally stopped being afraid. The room became painfully quiet. Marcus stood beside me without saying a word. He didn't need to. His presence reminded me exactly what I was protecting. My father suddenly stood. The chair scraped violently across the hard wood. You have 24 hours. I don't need 24 hours. The answer is no. His fist slammed onto our coffee table, hard enough to rattle every picture frame. You will sign. I won't. You don't have a choice. I already made it. He kicked the table, sending my favorite ceramic mug crashing onto the floor. Shards scattered across the living room. Hazel, playing upstairs, called down softly, Mommy? Marcus immediately answered, It's okay, sweetheart. My father stared toward the staircase, for just a second. Long enough to remind me exactly what he was willing to use against me. Then he turned back. If this family falls, so do you. He stormed out, slamming the front door hard enough to shake the walls. For several seconds, neither Marcus nor I spoke. Finally, he looked at the paperwork again. Something isn't right. I know. No company worth hundreds of millions asks an estranged daughter who's a pediatric nurse to guarantee a loan this size. I nodded slowly. They're desperate. That single word changed everything. The next morning, I hired a forensic accountant. 3 days later, she walked into my attorney's office carrying 2 binders. I wish I had better news. She didn't. There was no downtown development, no expansion project, no new commercial investment. The entire proposal was fiction. Instead, my father had secretly accumulated enormous gambling debts over more than a decade. Millions had disappeared through offshore betting accounts and illegal high-stakes games. But the worst discovery came last. He didn't owe banks. He owed a violent criminal named Cameron Vale. If the money wasn't paid within weeks, Robert Rosales wouldn't simply lose his company. People were going to get hurt. The fraudulent loan had one purpose: use my spotless financial history to secure financing, pay off organized crime debt, leave me legally responsible after everything collapsed. My own father intended to sacrifice my family to save himself. Marcus quietly closed the report. We're done with them. I know. No more conversations. No more chances. No more hope. I hired attorney Veronica Shaw that same afternoon. She carefully reviewed every document before looking up. Your father isn't negotiating. He's cornered. And cornered people become dangerous. She drafted a certified cease and desist letter prohibiting Robert, Diane, Carter, and Chloe from contacting me, Marcus, Hazel, or entering our property again. We mailed it before sunset. I thought that would establish boundaries. Instead, it declared war. The following morning, my phone exploded with calls. My mother left 17 voicemails before noon. Each one sounded more unhinged than the last. How dare you threaten your own parents? You selfish little girl. You'll regret humiliating your father. You've always been jealous of Carter. I should have never defended you. I listened to exactly one. Then I blocked every number. 2 days later, Carter arrived at my hospital. I was adjusting medication for a 7-year-old leukemia patient when shouting echoed through the pediatric wing. Nurses stepped into the hallway. Parents looked up nervously. Then I heard my name. There she is! Carter shoved past 2 security officers, pointing directly at me. She's stealing narcotics! Every conversation stopped. You need to drug test her immediately. She's addicted. She's been taking pain medication for months. I stood frozen. He wasn't attacking me. He was attacking my nursing license. Everything I'd spent years building. Hospital Director Julian Mercer stepped out of his office. Unlike Carter, Julian didn't raise his voice. He simply looked at him. Our nursing staff undergoes random testing every month. He paused. Ms. Rosales has one of the cleanest professional records in this hospital. Security grabbed Carter's arms. You're trespassing. As they dragged him toward the elevators, he screamed over his shoulder. This isn't over! We'll ruin you! Patients stared. Parents whispered. I felt every eye in the hallway on me. Julian quietly placed a hand on my shoulder. Take 5 minutes. You've done nothing wrong. I nodded, but inside, something had changed. Fear was slowly becoming determination. When I arrived home that evening, Marcus was sitting silently at the kitchen table. Several printed emails lay beside him. He looked exhausted. They came after me today. I picked up the papers. Anonymous complaints, false accusations, claims that Marcus had violent outbursts in class, suggestions that Child Protective Services had investigated him. None of it was true, but school policy required every complaint to be documented. His permanent employment record would now carry allegations forever. Marcus rubbed his forehead. They're attacking everything we've built. I reached across the table and took his hand. They want us scared. They want us desperate. They want us to sign. Marcus looked directly into my eyes. We won't. 3 nights later. I walked into the hospital parking garage after another late shift. All 4 tires on my car had been slashed. Across the driver's door, bright red spray paint dripped slowly toward the pavement. Sign. Or accidents happen. I stared at the message for a long time. This wasn't intimidation anymore. This was preparation. They weren't threatening my finances. They were threatening my family. I immediately called Marcus. Pack a bag. He didn't ask questions. Take Hazel to your parents' house. What happened? I'll explain later. Just leave now. My voice was calm. Too calm. He recognized it immediately. Within 30 minutes, they were gone. Only after receiving Marcus's message confirming they had arrived safely did I allow myself to breathe. The following morning, I sat across from Veronica again. She folded her hands together. A restraining order won't stop people like your father. I know. So we stop reacting. We make them act. She leaned forward. We build a trap. Veronica made one phone call. That call introduced me to Aaron Cole, former military intelligence, now the owner of a private security company that specialized in protecting witnesses, judges, executives, and families facing organized criminal threats. He listened to my story without interrupting. When I finished, he asked only one question. Do you believe they'll come back? Yes. Will they bring everyone? They've always operated together. He nodded once. Good. That wasn't the answer I expected. They're predictable, Aaron continued. People like your father believe intimidation works because it's always worked before. The moment you stopped obeying, he decided to increase the pressure. So, what do? We let him. For the next 48 hours, my house quietly transformed into something else. Tiny cameras disappeared inside smoke detectors. Wide-angle lenses hid behind books on the living room shelves. Sensitive microphones blended into light fixtures. Another miniature camera was carefully sewn into Hazel's favorite stuffed dolphin. Everything streamed continuously to encrypted cloud servers. Destroying the cameras would accomplish nothing. The evidence would already exist. Before leaving, Aaron handed me a silver pendant hanging from a leather cord. It looked completely ordinary. Camera? He smiled. And microphone. He pointed toward the center. There's also a panic trigger. How? Choose a phrase. A phrase? Something you'd never naturally say. The moment you speak it, his monitoring center would immediately notify tactical officers already partnered with local law enforcement. No waiting, no explanations, no precious minutes wasted. I thought for several seconds. Emergency assistance. Aaron typed the words into his tablet. Done. Marcus watched quietly as the technicians packed their equipment. You really think it'll come to this? I looked toward Hazel, who was coloring dolphins at the kitchen table. I hope not. But if it does, I'm ending this. Marcus reached for my hand. I hate that you've had to become this person. I squeezed his fingers. I hate that they gave me no choice. We moved Marcus and Hazel to his parents' house, 2 towns away. Only Aaron's team, Veronica, Marcus, and I, knew where they actually were. Then, we baited the trap. Through mutual acquaintances, I allowed one carefully crafted rumor to spread. Marcus had supposedly left for a weekend educational conference. Hazel had come back home early because she missed me. I would be alone with my daughter all Saturday afternoon, exactly the opportunity my family believed they needed. Aaron called Friday evening. They took the bait. Saturday arrived strangely peaceful. Hazel sat on the living room rug, building an elaborate tower from colorful wooden blocks. Every few minutes, she proudly looked toward me. Look, Mommy! It's getting taller. It is. It might touch the ceiling. I believe it. She giggled. For one impossible moment, everything felt normal. At exactly 2:15 p.m., a black SUV turned sharply into my driveway. 4 doors opened simultaneously. Robert, Diane, Carter, Chloe. Exactly as Aaron predicted. I quietly touched the pendant beneath my shirt. The cameras were already recording. I opened the front door. Robert brushed past me without greeting. Carter immediately positioned himself beside the entrance, blocking any escape. Diane placed a bakery box on my kitchen counter. Chloe walked directly toward Hazel. Hi, sweetheart. Hazel instinctively stepped backward. Chloe caught both of her shoulders before she could move farther away. Robert opened his briefcase. The same documents, the same pen. This ends today. I'm still not signing. His expression darkened. You have no choice. I have one. No. You never did! I deliberately spoke louder than normal. I opened the front door. Robert brushed past me without greeting. Carter immediately positioned himself beside the entrance, blocking any escape. Diane placed a bakery box on my kitchen counter. Chloe walked directly toward Hazel. Hi, sweetheart. Hazel instinctively stepped backward. Chloe caught both of her shoulders before she could move farther away. Robert opened his briefcase. The same documents, the same pen. This ends today. I'm still not signing. His expression darkened. You have no choice. I have one. No. You never did. I deliberately spoke louder than normal. "I'm not risking my daughter's future to cover your gambling debts." Carter's head snapped toward me. "What did you just say?" "You heard me." Diane laughed from the kitchen. "Your life means absolutely nothing to this family. You should have signed weeks ago. You have no legal right to be here." Robert ignored me. Instead, he slowly reached inside his jacket. My heartbeat stopped. The pistol emerged. Black, heavy, very real. He calmly pulled back the slide. The metallic click echoed through the room. Hazel stared at the gun without understanding. Robert walked toward her. Then, he lowered the barrel against the side of her head. One last opportunity. Hazel's breathing became rapid. "Mommy." "It's okay, baby." "No." She began crying. Chloe tightened her grip. "Stay still." Every instinct inside me screamed to rush forward. But I needed seconds. Only seconds. I looked directly toward the hidden camera inside my pendant. "Emergency assistance." Robert frowned. "What?" I repeated the words slowly. "Emergency assistance." His eyes narrowed. "What nonsense are you talking about?" I kept speaking. "I'm protecting my daughter." "No, you're delaying." His finger tightened around the trigger. Time slowed. 1, 2, 3. I lunged, throwing every ounce of my body between the gun and Hazel. The explosion shook the room. The bullet blasted into the ceiling. Plaster rained over us. Hazel collapsed, screaming. I dropped beside her, desperately searching for blood. Nothing. She wasn't hit. Thank God, she wasn't hit. Before Robert could recover, my front door exploded inward. The frame splintered apart. Black-clad tactical officers flooded into the living room. "Police! Drop the weapon!" Red laser sights covered Robert's chest. His pistol struck the hardwood floor. Within seconds, he lay face down in handcuffs. Carter tried raising his hands. 2 officers forced him to the ground. Chloe released Hazel and began screaming hysterically. Diane attempted to run toward the kitchen. She barely made 2 steps before officers restrained her. I lifted Hazel into my arms. She buried her face against my shoulder, shaking uncontrollably. "It's over. I've got you. I've got you." Robert looked around wildly. "This is a misunderstanding. It's a family dispute. I was defending myself." The tactical commander didn't answer. I stepped forward, calmly, slowly. Then I pointed toward the smoke detector. Next, the bookshelf. Finally, the pendant around my neck. "You didn't threaten us privately." I met my father's eyes. "You performed for an audience." His face emptied of color. "Every camera in this house has been recording. Everything streamed live. The police watched every second." Silence. Complete silence. Diane stopped crying. Carter stared at the ceiling cameras. Chloe whispered one word. "No." For the first time in my life, my father looked afraid. 8 months later, every second of that recording played before a jury. The footage destroyed every lie their attorneys tried to tell. Then another surprise shattered what remained of the Rosales empire. Chloe's husband, Dylan, testified that she had openly admitted they planned to bankrupt me to preserve her inheritance. A forensic accountant exposed Carter's secret embezzlement of more than $4 million from my father's company. The courtroom erupted. Even Robert hadn't known. The empire had already collapsed from the inside. The jury deliberated less than 4 hours. Guilty, on every count. Robert received 23 years. Diane received 18. Carter's sentence expanded after separate financial crimes were uncovered. Chloe accepted a plea agreement and permanently lost custody of her children. Marcus, Hazel, and I sold our house the following year. Too many memories remained inside those walls. We moved 3 states away to a quiet coastal town where nobody recognized the Rosales name. I continued working as a pediatric nurse. Marcus found another teaching position within weeks. Hazel slowly healed. The nightmares became less frequent. Her laughter returned. She filled sketchbooks with colorful dolphins and begged us to visit the aquarium every weekend. Occasionally, prison letters still arrived. Robert demanded I help with his appeals. Diane begged to speak with Hazel. I never opened a single envelope. They went straight into the shredder. Listening to the paper disappear always brought an unexpected sense of peace. People say blood is thicker than water. I don't believe that anymore. Blood made us relatives. Love, loyalty, and sacrifice made us a family. The people who spent 30 years calling me weak never understood something simple. Strength isn't measured by the empire you inherit. It's measured by what you're willing to protect. When they came to steal the life Marcus and I had built, I opened the front door, and I quietly locked the cage behind them.